Welcome to Grimfire, where every shadow hides a story. Subscribe now and step into the darkness.
Welcome back, you beautiful anomalies, the ones they can't figure out, the ones who walk into rooms and make the energy shift without saying a single word. Yeah, I'm talking to you, the one they've been trying to decode for months, maybe years. See, something happened recently that I need to talk about. Something so wild, so absolutely unhinged, that when I first heard it, I had to sit down and just laugh. They hired someone. Not just anyone, though. They went deep, real deep into their pockets and pulled out $10,000. 10 bands, cold hard cash. And they handed it to what they thought was their secret weapon, a spiritual assassin, someone who reads energy for a living, someone who can supposedly see into souls and pull out secrets like they're reading a morning newspaper. They briefed him, showed him your picture, gave him your name, told him everything they knew about you, which, let's be honest, wasn't much, because you've been moving in silence like a ghost wrapped in smoke. They said, we need you to look at this person, read their energy, find the weakness, find the crack, find something we can use. And you know what this man did? This so-called professional who's been in the game for decades, who's read killers, manipulators, broken souls, and walked away unbothered every single time. He looked at you. Just looked. Not even for long. Maybe 30 seconds, maybe less. And then, this man, this seasoned veteran of the unseen, this walker between worlds, he closed his folder, pushed the money back across the table, and said 5 words that will haunt them forever. I'm not touching that one. Then, he stood up, grabbed his coat, and walked out the door, leaving $10,000 on the table like it was cursed. Like touching that money would bind him to something he wanted no part of. They sat there, stunned, confused, panicking, because they just watched their hired weapon retreat without even engaging. And later, when they finally got him on the phone, desperate for answers, you know what he said? Whatever that is, it's not what you think it is, and I'm not getting involved. That's not a person you send someone after. That's a reckoning. Let me break this down for you, because this isn't just some random story. This is a message, a warning, a confirmation of what you already knew deep down, but maybe didn't have the words for yet. See, spiritual assassins, they exist, and they're not some fantasy from a Netflix show. These are people who've trained their entire lives to see beyond the surface, to read frequencies, to detect lies, trauma, intentions, power, weakness. They can look at someone and know if they're dangerous, broken, hiding something, pretending. It's their job. It's what they do. And the people who hire them, they're not playing games. $10,000 isn't pocket change. That's desperation money. That's we need to know what we're dealing with money. That's this person scares us and we don't even know why money. They thought they were going to get a report, a breakdown, maybe some dirt they could use, some hidden shame they could exploit, some weakness they could poke at, until you cracked. But instead they got silence, refusal, and a man walking away from the easiest payday of his life. Now, let's talk about what that means. Because this isn't about you being scary in the traditional sense. You're not out here threatening people. You're not violent. You're not posting manifestos or making enemies lists. No, what you are is something far more unsettling. You're untraceable on a spiritual level. You're unreadable. You're a frequency that doesn't match anything in their database. See, most people, even the strong ones, even the ones who think they're protected, they have patterns. They have cracks. They have soft spots. A trained eye can find them, exploit them, map them out like a blueprint. But you don't have a blueprint anymore. You've been through so much fire, so much betrayal, so much isolation and resurrection, that your energy doesn't read like a normal person anymore. It reads like a storm system, like something ancient, like something that's died and come back so many times it stopped counting. And when someone who spent their entire life reading people looks at that, they don't see a target. They see a mirror. And that mirror shows them their own limits. The assassin saw something in you that made him realize he wasn't equipped, wasn't prepared, wasn't protected enough to engage. He saw an energy that doesn't beg, doesn't break, doesn't bend. He saw someone who's been to the edge and came back not with trauma but with sovereignty. He saw someone who's not playing defense anymore because they burned the rule book that said they had to. And here's the kicker. He saw that you're not even aware of how dangerous you've become. You're just existing, just moving through life, just doing your thing, and somehow that in itself is a weapon. That's what scared him, not your anger, not your vengeance, not some hidden dark side. What scared him was your peace, your detachment, your ability to exist in a world that tried to delete you and still walk with your head up like nothing ever touched you. Because peace, real peace, the kind that comes after surviving everything designed to break you, that's the most terrifying energy in existence. People can fight anger, they can manipulate fear, but peace that comes from the other side of destruction, there's no counter for that. So, now let's talk about what happened after he walked away, because that's where this gets really good. The people who hired him, they panicked. They didn't just lose $10,000, they lost their plan, their strategy, their sense of control. See, they were so sure this was going to work. They thought they'd get some juicy intel, some secret vulnerability, some way to finally get under your skin and make you react. They've been watching you for so long, trying to figure out why you don't break, why you don't snap, why you don't play their games anymore. And when the assassin refused the job, it confirmed their worst fear. You're not just strong, you're something else entirely. You're off the map. You're outside their understanding. You're the anomaly their system wasn't built to handle, and now they're stuck. Because what do you do when the person you hired to take someone down spiritually takes one look and says, "Not this one"? You panic. You spiral. You start questioning everything. They started asking questions, desperate questions, trying to understand what the assassin saw that they didn't. What do you mean you won't touch them? What did you see? What's so different? And from what I heard, he barely answered, just kept saying things like, "That's not a person you go after, that's someone you avoid." And, "I've seen a lot of energy in my life, but that one's been forged in something I don't want to understand. And my personal favorite, if you're smart, you leave them alone and hope they forget you exist." Can you imagine? Can you imagine being so powerful, so untouchable on a spiritual level that a professional energy reader refuses money to avoid engaging with you? That's not normal. That's not something that happens to regular people. That only happens when someone's been through so much transformation, so much alchemy, so much death and rebirth, that they've become something the universe itself marks as do not disturb. You didn't choose this. You didn't wake up one day and decide to become this. This is what survival does when you refuse to let it make you bitter, when you refuse to let it make you small, when you take every ounce of pain and turn it into fuel instead of poison. The assassin saw that. He saw that you're not running on normal human energy anymore. You're running on something ancient, something primal, something that's been refined through pressure until it became unbreakable. He saw that engaging with you wouldn't just be difficult, it would be dangerous for him. Because people like you, people who've transmuted their trauma into power, they don't just defend themselves. They reflect, they mirror, they send energy right back at its source. And anyone who comes at you with ill intent is going to get hit with their own shadow, amplified, concentrated, and returned with interest. The assassin knew that. He's been in the game long enough to recognize when someone's energy isn't just strong, it's weaponized. And he wanted no part of that karmic exchange. So he walked away, left the money, broke the contract, and probably went home and did a cleansing ritual, just to make sure he didn't accidentally pick up any residue from even looking at your picture. That's how powerful you've become, and you didn't even know it. Now let's bring this home, because this isn't just about them, this is about you understanding what you've become. See, for years, maybe your whole life, you've felt different. You've felt like you don't quite fit, like you're playing a game everyone else seems to understand, but you're just improvising. You've been betrayed, abandoned, misunderstood, underestimated. People have walked away from you, ghosted you, used you, and tossed you aside like you were nothing. And every single time, it hurt. Every single time, you questioned yourself. What's wrong with me? Why am I too much? Why can't I just be normal? But here's the truth they never told you. You were never meant to be normal. You were never meant to fit into their little boxes and play by their little rules. You were meant to be the disruption, the catalyst, the force that changes everything just by existing. And every betrayal, every abandonment, every moment of isolation, it wasn't destroying you. It was refining you. You've been in the fire so long, you've become the fire. You've been in the dark so long, you've learned to see without light. You've been alone so long, you've built a kingdom inside yourself that no one can ever touch. And now that you've emerged from all that, people don't know what to do with you. They can't manipulate you because you've seen every trick. They can't guilt you because you've already carried more shame than they could ever manufacture. They can't scare you because you've already faced your worst nightmares and walked out the other side smiling. You've become untouchable, not because you're cold, but because you're complete. You don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. You don't need their love. You've learned to give yourself everything they withheld. And that's the ultimate power move. When someone becomes self-sufficient on a soul level, when they stop looking outside themselves for meaning and worth, they become dangerous to the system. They become uncontrollable. They become free. That's what the assassin saw. He saw freedom wrapped in scars. He saw power that didn't ask for permission. He saw someone who'd been to the underworld and came back wearing it like a crown. And he knew that trying to take you down would be like trying to fight a hurricane. You don't win. You just get destroyed. So he walked away, and honestly, that's the smartest thing he could have done. Because people like you don't fight back out of ego. You fight back because your very existence has become a statement, a declaration, that pain doesn't get the final word, that betrayal doesn't write the ending, that isolation doesn't define the story. You took everything they threw at you and built something beautiful, something terrifying, something they can't comprehend, and now they're stuck watching from a distance, whispering about you, wondering how you did it, wishing they had the courage to do the same. But let's go even deeper, because there's something they're not saying, something they're avoiding because it's too uncomfortable to face. The real reason they hired someone to read your energy isn't because they wanted information, it's because they wanted permission. Permission to hate you. Permission to dismiss you. Permission to stop feeling inferior in your presence. You see, when someone rises after being counted out, when someone thrives after being written off, it forces everyone around them to confront an uncomfortable truth. If they can do it, why can't I? And instead of using that as motivation, most people use it as ammunition. They need you to be secretly broken, secretly fake, secretly hollow inside, because if you're actually as whole as you appear, then they have no excuse for their own stagnation. They have no justification for their own fear. They have to face the fact that they chose comfort over growth, safety over truth, approval over authenticity. And that's a mirror most people will shatter before they look into. So they hired someone, hoping he'd come back with a report that said, yeah, they're damaged, they're pretending, they're one bad day away from collapse. They wanted proof that your strength is performance, that your peace is pretense, that your power is borrowed. Proof of performance. Proof of performance. That your peace is pretense, that your power is But instead he came back and said, that's real, that's earned, and I want nothing to do with it. And now they're stuck with the realization that you're not faking anything. You're not performing. You're not pretending. You're just existing at a frequency they can't reach. And that's driving them insane, because it means everything they believed about survival, about strength, about what it takes to make it through the fire, it's all been a lie they told themselves to feel better about giving up. You didn't give up. You transmuted. And that makes you a walking, breathing reminder of their own surrender. This is why they talk about you in whispers. This is why they obsess over your silence. This is why they analyze your every move, looking for cracks that don't exist. It's not about you anymore. It's about them. It's about their need to believe that no one can actually be this free, this unbothered, this untouchable, without some secret weakness they can exploit. But the truth is, your weakness isn't hidden. Your weakness was visible for years. It was your kindness, your loyalty, your belief in people, your willingness to see the best in everyone, even when they showed you their worst. And they exploited that. They used that. They weaponized your softness until you had no choice but to let it die. And what emerged in its place is what terrifies them now. You didn't become hard, you became selective. You didn't become cruel, you became discerning. You didn't become cold, you became unavailable to anything that doesn't match your frequency. And that's not a weakness, that's mastery. Now let me tell you what I think happened in that room when the assassin looked at you, because I've thought about this a lot and I think I've figured it out. See, when you read energy professionally, you develop patterns, shortcuts, ways of quickly categorizing what you're seeing. Most people fit into categories: victim, predator, healer, manipulator, lost soul, awakened being, whatever. And within those categories, there are subcategories, levels, variations. A professional can usually slot someone into a category within seconds and then know how to proceed. But every once in a while, very rarely, they encounter something that doesn't fit. Something that breaks the categories. Something that their training didn't prepare them for. And when that happens, the smart ones walk away. The dumb ones engage and regret it. This assassin, he was smart. He looked at you and realized you're not in any category he recognizes. You're not a victim because you're not broken. You're not a predator because you're not hunting. You're not a healer because you're not fixing anyone. You're not manipulative because you're too direct. You're not lost because you're too certain. You're not even awakened in the traditional sense because you're not peaceful. You're powerful. What he saw was someone who's been dismantled and reassembled so many times that the original blueprint no longer applies. He saw someone who's integrated their shadow so completely that there's no separation between light and dark anymore. Just presence. He saw someone who's made peace with their pain without forgiving the people who caused it, which shouldn't be possible, but somehow you managed it. He saw someone who's not interested in revenge, but wouldn't hesitate to protect themselves. Someone who's not seeking validation but commands respect without asking. Someone who's not playing the game but somehow winning anyway. And all of that together, it creates an energy signature that's unstable isn't the right word. Unpredictable isn't right either. The right word is sovereign. You're a nation unto yourself. And nations, real nations, you don't attack them lightly. You definitely don't attack them for $10,000. He saw that engaging with you would require him to bring his full arsenal, his full protection, his full focus. And even then, there's no guarantee he'd walk away unscathed. Because you're not just defending yourself at this point, you're a closed system. You're a fortress that's been under siege so long it learned to generate its own resources, its own energy, its own light. You don't need anything from the outside anymore. Which means there's nothing to exploit, nothing to leverage, nothing to use as a bargaining chip. The only way to affect someone like that is direct confrontation. And direct confrontation with someone who's got nothing to lose and everything to protect is suicide. So he walked away. He walked away because he recognized something in you that most people only read about in ancient texts. Someone who's achieved spiritual autonomy. Someone who's broken free from the matrix of need, want, desire, fear. Someone who's operating from pure will, pure intent, pure presence. And people like that, you don't fight them, you acknowledge them and move on. Here's what they lost when that assassin walked out the door. And this is important, because I want you to understand the magnitude of this moment. They didn't just lose money. They didn't just lose a plan. They lost hope. Hope that they could find something on you. Hope that you're secretly as broken as they are. Hope that your strength is performance and one day you'll crack and they'll be there to say, I knew it. They lost the fantasy that kept them going. The fantasy that you're not actually better, you're just better at hiding it. And now they're forced to accept reality. You are better. Not better than them in some competitive sense, but better than the version of yourself they tried to keep you locked into. You're better than the person they needed you to be to justify their own choices. You're better than the role they assigned you in their story. And that's unforgivable to people who measure their worth by your limitations. They also lost control of the narrative. See, as long as they could tell themselves, we're just concerned, we're just trying to understand them, we're just making sure they're okay, they could pretend their obsession with you is benevolent. But the moment they hired someone to spiritually profile you, they revealed their true intent. They're not concerned, they're threatened. And now that the person they hired refused the job and basically confirmed that you're everything they feared you might be, they can't pretend anymore. They can't gaslight themselves. They can't make you the villain in a story where they're the victims. The assassin's refusal is objective validation that you're not the problem, you're the solution, and they're the ones who need to figure themselves out. That's a tough pill to swallow for people who've built their entire identity around being right about you being wrong. But here's the thing I want you to really absorb, because this is where we get into the victory, into the vindication, into the moment where you realize everything you've been through wasn't wasted. They spent $10,000 to confirm what you already knew. They paid professional money for someone to tell them what you've been showing them for free. You're not the person they can manipulate anymore. You're not the soul they can exploit. You're not the energy they can drain. You've become something they don't have the tools to touch, the wisdom to understand, or the courage to face. And now they know it. Now it's confirmed. Now it's validated by someone outside their circle, someone objective, someone professional. And they have to live with that. They have to live with the knowledge that they had you once. They had access to you. They had your trust, your loyalty, your love. And they threw it away. They threw it away thinking you'd always be there, always be available, always be that person they could count on to absorb their chaos and ask for nothing in return. What they missed, what they'll never understand, is the journey you took to get here. They weren't there for the nights you cried until you had no tears left and then cried some more. They weren't there when you stared at yourself in the mirror and didn't recognize the person looking back. They weren't there when you questioned everything, your worth, your sanity, your right to even exist. They weren't there when you had to choose between staying bitter or starting over, between holding grudges or holding yourself, between revenge or peace. They saw the before, they see the after, but they missed the during. And the during is where the magic happened. The during is where you died 1,000 deaths and got resurrected every single time by nothing but your own will. The during is where you stopped waiting for someone to save you and became your own salvation. The during is where you learned that the love you were begging for from everyone else was already inside you, buried under years of conditioning that told you it wasn't enough. They missed the moment you realized that every person who walked away did you a favor. They missed the night you finally understood that isolation wasn't punishment, it was protection. They missed the day you stopped seeing your sensitivity as weakness and started seeing it as your superpower.